When was the last time a single ping hijacked your nervous system? Heart rate up, jaw tight, fingers already drafting the reply you'll wish you could unsend. Be honest. How many of your worst choices weren't evil, just urgent? Emotional detachment in the Stoic sense isn't frost. It's authorship. It's the discipline to feel the wave and still decide the direction. You don't mute your humanity. You stop auctioning your future to the mood of the minute. This is how you become the one steady presence in a spinning room, calm, proportionate, and quietly powerful. 1. Choose response over reaction. You don't lose your life in catastrophes. You lose it in 10-second storms. A tone you don't like, a message that lands hot, a delay that nags at your pride, and suddenly your fingers are moving faster than your mind, drafting verdicts you'll spend the evening repairing. Reaction is the nervous system's reflex. Response is the mind's authorship. The difference lives in a breath-wide gap you can learn to open on command. Detachment begins there, not as coldness, but as custody over yourself when the room tilts. The first move is simple and difficult. Notice the body before the story. Heat gathers in your chest, your jaw tightens, your eyes narrow around a single sentence you want to send. That's the alarm, not the enemy. Let it ring without sprinting toward the fire. Name what's here in plain language: anger, shame, fear, ego, without turning it into an identity. You are not the wave. You are the shore that feels it. The moment you can say, "This is a strong feeling, not the whole truth," you have purchased a sliver of freedom. That sliver is where wisdom can enter. Then give time the job adrenaline wants. Adrenaline begs for speed. Wisdom asks for proportion. Take one unheroic minute to change state before you change the world. Stand, breathe longer out than in, look at a fixed point. If the matter is truly important, it will survive 60 seconds. Most things improve when oxygen arrives. What you are doing here is not avoidance, it is governance. You are refusing to let a passing surge spend tomorrow's peace to buy you today's relief. From that steadier ground, ask yourself 3 quiet questions that cut drama back to size. What is real? What actually matters? What is the next small move that respects both? Real is filmable fact, not forecast. Matters means measured against your values and existing promises, not your ego's appetite. The next move is proportionate and concrete. A single clean line instead of a paragraph that indicts. A request for a call instead of escalation by text. A return to the work block you abandoned while your heart was loud. You don't owe the world your immediacy, you owe yourself integrity. Integrity is the art of right-sizing your energy to reality. Expect misunderstanding when you begin to live this way. People accustomed to your instant compliance will read your composure as coldness. Let them. Cold is what chaos calls calm when it can no longer control you. You're not suppressing feeling. You're refusing to let feeling become your foreman. You can say, "I'll get back to you this afternoon with warmth." You can say, "I'm not available for this right now," without a courtroom attached. Detachment is not indifference. It is the refusal to auction your center every time a bell rings. Train this on low stakes so it will hold on high ones. Choose a daily moment, an app badge, a colleague's sigh, a stubborn loading bar, and practice the pause until it becomes a reflex you can take into harder rooms. Count your saves, not your speeches. The unsent paragraph, the conversation you moved to voice, the evening you protected because you didn't feed a small fire with your pride. 1 fewer reaction a day is 7 fires you don't have to put out by Friday. The ledger of these saves is quiet, but it changes the shape of your life more than any dramatic apology ever will. In time, you will feel the difference in your breath before you hear it in your voice. You will start to trust yourself in the seconds where you used to abandon yourself. You will see problems return to their actual size, relationships deepen because your pace is trustworthy, and work compound because attention is no longer shredded by every provocation. This is what Stoic detachment gives you. Not a frozen heart, but a steady hand. Not a smaller life, but a life no longer ruled by the first surge. And when the message lands that once would have kidnapped your day, you'll feel the wave, step back from the edge, and choose a move you can sign your name under tomorrow. 2. Live the dichotomy of control, for real. You waste oceans of strength trying to be the weather. You rehearse other people's lines in your head, negotiate with outcomes that don't belong to you, refresh dashboards like a gambler at a slot machine, and call the dizziness being responsible. Responsibility is not domination, it's discrimination, the courage to separate what is yours from what is not, and to pour your limited life into the first while releasing the second without ceremony. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control, and it is the most practical spell you'll ever learn. Cast correctly, it shrinks anxiety, fattens effectiveness, and returns you to a center that doesn't tremble every time a cloud passes. Begin where all clarity begins. Naming. Write the scene of your day as if you were a cartographer. What in this landscape answers when you move? Your judgment, how you interpret. Your attention, what you feed. Your choices, the words you say, the work you do, the standards you keep, the pace you set. And what refuses to answer your commands? Other people's timing and tastes. Algorithms, traffic, macroeconomics, old weather and future storms. The tragic comedy is how often you invert the map. You grip the wind, you drop the wheel. You chase the unownable while neglecting the levers sitting quietly in your hands. So make the split felt, not just admired. Before you enter the day's main arena, meeting, exam, sales call, hard talk, pause long enough to draw an internal line down the page. Mine/not mine. On the left, write in short, stubborn fragments. Clarity of message, tone, preparation, presence, follow-up, boundary. On the right, their mood, their history, their approval, the outcome's exact shape, the gossip afterward. Then commit to a simple rule. You will judge this attempt by the left column only. This is not denial, it is discipline. The right column will always have weather in it, sometimes sunny, sometimes storm. You are not a meteorologist, you are a sailor. Angle your sail. When your attention drifts to the horizon of what you can't steer, will they choose me? Will this go viral? Will the door open? Bring it back with work your hands can actually do. Tighten one sentence, shorten the deck. Rehearse the opener aloud until your breath stops tripping. Decide in advance how you'll respond if the room goes cold or questions turn sharp. The mind panics when it feels useless. It calms when you give it tools. Tools live in the left column. Notice what happens to your nervous system when you practice this in real time. The pulse that used to sprint toward prediction begins to settle into proportion. You start to experience a strange blend of humility and power. Humility, because you no longer pretend to be the god of outcomes. Power, because everything that's truly yours grows sharper under your hand. You become precise where it matters. And precision, repeated, is what fills lives with results that onlookers call luck. Of course, there will be days you give your best and the world shrugs. The offer is clean and they pass. The test is studied for and you miss. The apology is sincere and they stay distant. This is where most people renounce the dichotomy, blaming its calm for their disappointment. If I can't control it, why try? Because trying and controlling are not the same act. Trying is integrity expressed through effort. Control is fantasy. You try because effort is who you are. Results are what reality allows on its timetable. The person you are becoming is measured by inputs, not applause, by the cleanliness of your attempt, not the noise that follows. Train small to trust big. Practice on mundane frustrations. When the line moves slowly, ask, "What's mine?" Shoulders down, breath longer out than in, a kind word to the cashier, a single email drafted while you wait. When the upload stalls, what's mine? Close extra tabs, step away for 2 minutes, return to the paragraph that will still matter in 3 months. When a message lands snarky, what's mine? Clarify once, kindly. Refuse to litigate your worth by text. Move the conversation to a channel where tone has a chance. These are not tiny things. They are rehearsals for the moments that decide who you are under pressure. There is a moral clarity here too. Anchoring to what's yours removes 1,000 quiet manipulations from your day. You stop gaming your language to extract praise. You stop curving your boundaries to avoid someone else's storm. You stop decorating your effort in search of external permission to begin. You do the work the way you said you would, because that's what it means to be in charge of yourself. When praise comes, you file it under data, not identity. When blame comes, you filter it for signal and discard the rest. Your center of gravity moves inside, where other hands can't reach. Make yourself a short oath you can say, before any encounter that matters. I will own my part completely and release the rest completely. Then prove it with behavior. Speak simply. Listen fully. Ask for what you need once, cleanly. State your boundary without a paragraph. Follow up on time. Then let the world take its vote without bargaining your peace for a different outcome. If a door closes, your lever is the next door, not a midnight referendum on your worth. Over time, the ledger of days lived this way becomes undeniable. Anxiety loses its favorite food. Fantasies about futures you cannot command. Confidence stops being a speech and starts being the quiet memory of 1,000 left-column wins. People feel the difference without knowing the formula. They call you calm, they call you grounded. They're half right. What you really are is correctly allocated. Your energy where it can compound. Your hands off what was never yours to hold. That is emotional detachment as power. Not numbness, not passivity, but that rare posture that gives the world its weather back and steers a life with clean hands on the wheel. 3. Separate facts from stories. Most of your suffering isn't born in the world. It's manufactured in the gap between what happened and what you told yourself it meant. A message sits unanswered for 6 hours. That's the fact. They're ignoring me. I'm not a priority. This always happens to me. Those are stories, stitched from old thread and fresh adrenaline. A colleague frowns in a meeting. Fact. They hate my idea. I embarrassed myself. I should have stayed quiet. Story. One is filmable. The other is fiction with excellent special effects. Emotional detachment begins with the discipline of returning to the film, not the fantasy. Start with a simple ritual that disarms catastrophe. Say what happened in language a camera would recognize. No adjectives, no verdicts, no prophecy. I sent the proposal on Tuesday. No reply by Thursday. They rescheduled the call twice. Revenue down 12% this month. You'll feel the ego reach for color, for tone, for the satisfying thud of a conclusion. Don't feed it. Facts are humbling. That's why they heal. They strip away the drama you secretly use to feel alive while your life stands still. Then, without hurrying toward a positive spin, ask the question that turns rumination into reappraisal. What else could this mean? Not to gaslight yourself into sunshine, but to widen the lens until proportion returns. No reply could mean busyness, misalignment. Your message lacked a clear ask, or yes, disinterest. A frown could be concentration, headache, or disagreement you can learn from. A down month could be seasonality, pricing, offer clarity, or execution. When you generate 3 plausible explanations, your mind stops treating the first, darkest story as gospel. You are not trying to be right. You are trying to become free enough to act. Act is the point. Reappraisal without movement is just prettier rumination. Once the facts are clean and the possible meanings are plural, choose the smallest step that tests reality. Send a crisp follow-up with a single question and a binary choice. Ask the colleague, what part didn't land for you? Review your funnel. Run 1 new offer. Reach 3 new leads. The world speaks in feedback. Stories speak in echoes. The longer you stay in your head, the more convincing the echo becomes. The moment you touch the next lever, the room answers. And answers are a surgeon for anxiety. Pay attention to your body while you do this. Rumination tightens everything. Reappraisal loosens the jaw, lengthens the breath, returns weight to your feet. You can use the body as a compass when your mind is fogged. If the story you're repeating makes you smaller, more frantic, more certain that nothing you do will matter, it's not a story, it's a spell. Break it with contact. Touch the task. Touch the truth. Touch the world. The spell hates contact because contact reduces it to size. Be ruthless with the phrases that smuggle stories in as facts. Always, never, everyone, no one. That's just me. Those are not observations. They are indictments. Trade them for temporaries and specifics. This version underperformed. Today was heavy. 3 people pushed back. Specifics invite solutions. Absolutes invite surrender. The Stoics weren't allergic to feelings. They were allergic to lies we tell ourselves to avoid the work of seeing clearly. You can also recruit a future version of you as an editor. Imagine you, 6 months steadier, sitting beside you now. Hand them your narrative. Would they sign it as truth or mark it up with red ink, unproven, biased, fear-scented? Future you doesn't live in your head. They live in your ledger, kept promises, small experiments, hours in deep work. When you ask for their counsel, they will always say the same thing: verify with action. There is a quieter mercy here. When you separate facts from stories, other people are allowed to be human again. The friend who forgot to text is no longer a villain. They are a person in a day. The manager who cut the budget is no longer an oppressor. They are a constraint you can design within or decide to leave. You stop casting and start choosing. Choices shrink chaos. Choices return you to a life you can steer from the inside. Make this your morning oath for a week. I will describe events as they are, choose meanings that keep me mobile, and test them with one visible act. Then do it once before noon. Watch how many knots undo themselves when you stop yanking at them with anxious hands. Watch how many evenings come back to you because you didn't spend the afternoon arguing with a story. Clarity is not sterile. It is kind. It saves you from wounding yourself with a plot you invented to survive another life. It saves your relationships from trials they didn't earn. It saves your work from the static of your own commentary. And it gives you back the rarest gift, attention untangled from theatre. Facts first, meanings that serve movement, action that asks the world for truth. That's how detachment turns from an idea into a breath pattern you can trust when the next ping lands. 4. The view from above. You live most days with your nose pressed against the glass. This email, this ping, this micro-slight, and the world feels as small as whatever is touching your face. No wonder the heart gallops and judgment shrinks. Proportion dies at zero distance. The Stoics practiced a simple counterspell: step back until the scene returns to size. They called it the view from above, not an escape from life, but a correction of scale. When you rise in your mind, drama loses its magnifying power, and choices that were invisible at street level appear like roads from the air. Start with time. Imagine your current knot, delay, criticism, a plan that isn't landing, laid across a calendar you can zoom. At the scale of minutes, it fills the screen. At the scale of months, it thins. At the scale of years, it becomes a small mark between larger arcs. The season you learned to ship without applause. The quarter you rebuilt a system instead of your self-worth. The year you chose standards over speed. You're not minimizing pain. You're releasing it from the lie that it is permanent. Most storms don't last as long as the story you will tell about them if you stay pressed to the glass. Zooming out makes honesty possible. This hurts, and it is a moment, not a sentence. Then rise in space. Picture your room from the ceiling. See your body in the chair. A single human breathing, surrounded by objects that can be moved, on a street with dozens of other rooms where other humans breathe and worry and do the next thing. Float higher. The city shrinks to neighborhoods, the neighborhoods to blocks, the blocks to a grid. Keep rising until you can hold the map and ask a cleaner question. In a world this wide, what is the next small action whose impact will still matter when I zoom out again? From above, you're less tempted to fight for tiny victories that cost your center. You answer with acts that travel, craft improved, boundary spoken, hour protected, kindness given where it changes a day. The view from above also dissolves ego's theater. Up close, everything feels like it's about you. From altitude, you see traffic flows. The curt email was a ripple from someone else's storm. The meeting's energy dipped because the team is tired, not because your worth is on trial. Even your own moods look like weather patterns you can read rather than destinies you must obey. This isn't detachment as indifference, it's detachment as wisdom. When you're not the axis of every scene, you can give good effort without performing your importance. Paradoxically, this makes your presence heavier, the steady person who doesn't need to be the main character to act with courage. Use the height to edit priorities. Many of the tasks that devour your day cannot survive an aerial audit. From the ground, polishing the 10th slide seems noble. From above, calling the client and asking one clarifying question is what actually bends the curve. From the ground, defending yourself over text feels necessary. From above, a calm call or a clean boundary ends the loop. From the ground, checking metrics every hour feels like vigilance. From above, a daily block of deep work is the lever that will still matter next quarter. Altitude filters noise. Keep only what moves the arc. There's a tenderness to this practice too. When you look down on your timeline, you see previous versions of you doing the best they could with the tools they had. You notice where fear kept you still, and where a tiny act changed the plot. Compassion replaces contempt, and that compassion makes present courage cheaper. You stop trying to atone for the past with frantic overcorrection. You make the next right move at a human pace, which is the only pace that lasts. If you struggle to rise on demand, build a small ritual to fake altitude until it becomes real. Step outside and let your eyes find the farthest line they can hold. Roof lines, a stretch of sky, the horizon if you're lucky. Breathe until your gaze softens. Say 3 coordinates you can believe. Here is my body. Here is my place in time. Here is the one lever I will pull next. Or open a map app, zoom out 2 stops, and remind yourself that your life isn't a tab. It's a route. Routes are walked, not worried. Return often. The world will keep dragging you to the glass. The practice is not to live in the clouds. It's to commute, rise, right size, return, act. You'll feel the difference in your tone. Emails get shorter. Boundaries get cleaner. Apologies, when needed, get quicker and less theatrical. You will choose projects that respect your years and decline noise that only fattens your weeks. And when panic tries to sell you urgency, altitude will sell you accuracy. Accuracy wins. 5. Premeditatio malorum. Rehearse setbacks. You don't rise to the level of your hopes. You fall to the level of your preparations. Most panic is not about what happened. It's about the shock of it happening. You expected a straight road, and life took a turn. Your nervous system read the bend as betrayal. The Stoics trained a different reflex. Meet the bend before the turn. Premeditatio malorum is not a morbid obsession with disaster. It's a rehearsal for reality. You preview the obstacles you're likely to face, not to fear them twice, but to feel them once under controlled conditions, so you recognize them on game day and keep your hands steady on the wheel. Begin small. Picture tomorrow like a route you walk with your eyes open. Where could the ground be uneven? The client may reschedule, the upload may stall, the colleague might bring friction into the room, the commute might snarl, your energy may dip at 3 in the afternoon, your own doubt might try to bargain for delay. Bring each scene into focus, not as doom, but as possibility, and pair it with a practiced reply. If the meeting moves, I will reclaim the hour for deep work instead of letting frustration harvest it. If the file fails, I will have a local copy and a second avenue to deliver. If the tone turns sharp, I will ask one clarifying question rather than defend a story. If energy dips, I will stand, breathe, and switch to a lighter task for 20 minutes before returning. You are writing a choreography your body can keep when your mind wants to scatter. There is a trick here that matters. Rehearse with compassion, not catastrophe. The point is not to convince yourself the world is hostile. It's to make your nervous system fluent in probabilities. If you tell yourself a daily horror film, you'll show up jittery and invite the very errors you fear. If you tell yourself a grounded forecast with ready responses, you'll show up composed and increase the odds that the simplest solution appears. Think like a pilot, not a prophet. This can happen. If so, I do that. Calm checklists beat cinematic imaginations. Write a short, repeatable script each morning. The lighter, the better. 1 minute is enough. Name 3 likely frictions and the virtues you'll practice when they arrive. If delays, patience. If resistance, clarity. If confusion, curiosity. If disrespect, dignity. If temptation to rush, proportion. Virtue language matters because it reminds you that the goal is not merely to get through the obstacle, but to become someone you respect while moving through it. You aren't just delivering packages of outcomes, you're shaping the courier. Extend the rehearsal beyond logistics to emotion. What feeling reliably ambushes you? Maybe it's the shame that flares when someone questions your work, the anger that surges when plans are changed without you, the loneliness that creeps in at night, the envy that steals an hour after you see somebody else's highlight. Meet it early, on purpose. Say its name aloud and decide its job in your day. When shame visits, I will choose one small corrective act instead of a large self-attack. When anger flares, I will switch channels for 5 minutes and return with a single clean sentence. When loneliness speaks, I will keep my evening promise to my craft. When envy bites, I will use it as a map to a skill gap I can train. Feelings cease to be kidnappers when you turn them into couriers, messages with a route that ends in action. Premeditation also includes protecting your levers from predictable theft. If you know mornings are your sharpest hours, rehearse the gatekeeping lines you'll need when someone tries to collect them. I'm heads down till 10. I'll reply at noon. If you know certain conversations spiral on text, pre-decide your pivot to voice. This deserves tone. 5 minutes on a call. If meetings inflate to fill any container, set the container in advance. We have 15 minutes. One decision, not a novel. You are not being rigid. You are being kind to the future, which must live with the mess made by every boundary you failed to set while trying to be nice. Make failure part of the plan without making it your identity. Ask, where might I miss? Then decide the recovery rhythm before you need it. Never let a bad day take two. Never miss a core promise twice for the same reason. Never end a week without one move that repairs something you broke. Recovery is a skill. Practice it like any other. When the stumble comes, as it will, your feet already know the next step. That familiarity keeps you from narrating collapse, where there is only a slip. There is a surprising side effect to living this way. Gratitude becomes more available. When you have mentally tasted rain, sun feels like a gift instead of a default. When you have rehearsed the stall, smooth motion reads as grace. You waste less joy on fear of its ending because endings have been normalized. You stop bargaining with life for perfect days and get good at building good ones under imperfect weather. That competence reads as calm from the outside. Inside, it feels like dignity. Do not turn this practice into a new superstition. You cannot outthink chaos. You can only outprepare panic. 5 quiet minutes, 3 likely frictions, 1 planned virtue, 2 contingencies for your most important block. That's enough. Then close the rehearsal and walk into the day like someone who expects the road to be a road. Sometimes straight, sometimes curved, always passable with attention and humility. When the bend appears, you'll recognize it as familiar, shorten the startle, and take it with a steady hand. 6. Voluntary discomfort builds calm under pressure. You keep waiting to be brave in crises while spending every ordinary day avoiding anything inconvenient. That math never works. A nervous system pampered into fragility cannot suddenly become steel when life raises its voice. The Stoics trained the opposite reflex. Choose small hardships on purpose, so unchosen hardships stop owning you. Voluntary discomfort isn't self-punishment. It's sovereignty training. You teach your body and mind a quiet lesson. We can carry this. Until those 4 words become a reflex you can trust when the room tilts. Begin where control is highest, your daily frictions. Take back the first hour from the swarm, even if your bed begs for 10 more minutes. Walk in the weather you've been hiding from, the cold that bites, the heat that hums, and move at a pace that warms your blood without drama. Eat 1 clean meal while your feed tries to sell you relief in sugar. Finish the set when your muscles ask to stop at 9 and you promise 12. Take the stairs even when the elevator is smiling. None of these are heroic. That's the point. You're building a steady relationship with discomfort that doesn't need a speech to begin. Use the body as your training ground because the body is honest. It doesn't care about your story. It reports load and adapts to it. Cold water for 30 seconds at the end of a shower. A deliberate fast from snacking between meals. A phone placed in another room during your sacred block, even when the phantom buzz taps your spine. Each time you hold the line, you deposit evidence into an account labeled capacity. That account is what you'll draw from when a client snaps, a plan stalls, a partner disappoints, a headline shakes the floor. People call it resilience. It's really memory. Your system remembers it can survive urges unserved. Voluntary discomfort works because it inoculates you against the worst part of stress, the surprise. The same cold that would have sent you into flight is now a sensation you've met before. The same hunger that used to turn you into a storm is now a signal you can ride for an hour. The same itch to check, prove, defend is now a cue to breathe and return. You've rehearsed the flinch in miniature, so when the big version arrives, your startle is shorter. Between stimulus and response, you don't only have a breath, you have a library of small victories whispering, "We've been here." But hear this clearly. Chosen discomfort without meaning becomes theatre. You're not chasing pain to feel tough. You are aligning friction with values. Choose hardships that strengthen what you actually need. If your temper hijacks conversations, practice silence long enough to let your pulse drop before you speak. If scrolling rules your mornings, practice a daily device delay, 15 honest minutes where your craft meets you first. If approval is your oxygen, practice sharing work without asking for comments for 72 hours. If quitting has been your rhythm, practice finishing one thing a day, however small, before touching something new. These frictions are not random, they are antidotes. Ritualize so discipline costs less. Don't negotiate cold, decide the duration and count down. Don't debate the stairwell, make it part of your commute. Don't argue with the phone, exile it to a drawer during your block, and put a kitchen timer on the desk so time still has a face. The brain loves rails. The more rails you lay, the less willpower you spend, and the more calm you keep available for real problems. Calm is not a mood, it's leftover bandwidth. Voluntary discomfort is how you buy some back. Expect a backlash from the softer parts of you. They will call this rigidity, joylessness, overkill. Translate. Rigid means reliable under pressure. Joyless means not anesthetized by constant treats. Overkill means you're finally training beyond the minimum required to not drown. You're not exiling pleasure, you're extracting it from impulse. Warmth after cold water is richer. Food after a clean block is brighter. Rest after honest work is sleep, not sedation. Asceticism bores me. Aliveness after discipline does not. Track the practice with humility. You don't need a spreadsheet. You need a streak that fits on a sticky note. 3 boxes: body, craft, boundary. Each day, one small chosen friction in each. Body, finish the last set. Take the walk in weather. Cold, finish. Craft, 25 minutes of deep work before messages. 1 paragraph past resistance. Ship the unglamorous task. Boundary, 1 clean no without a paragraph. Device-free meal. Leave a room when gossip starts. Mark the X. If you miss, you miss. Begin again. Never miss twice for the same reason. That single sentence will outlast a dozen motivational quotes. Notice how your tone changes after a month. Anger arrives and finds less tinder. Anxiety knocks and finds you busy pulling a lever. Urges rise and fall without turning the day. People around you will feel something different, even if they can't name it. You'll say less and be heard more. The room will try to hand you its panic. You'll hand it pace. Not because you became stone, but because you learned to stay warm in wind. One more mercy. Chosen discomfort makes you gentler, not harsher. Having met your own edges without theatrics, you stop judging others for theirs. Compassion no longer requires coddling because you know the difference between rescue and respect. You can sit with a friend in their storm without stealing the wheel. You can lead a team through a hard quarter without setting the room on fire to feel in charge. That steadiness is rare. It's also teachable. You are teaching it to your body, one small, deliberate friction at a time. Begin embarrassingly small today. End the shower cold for 30 seconds. Work 25 minutes before you touch anything that pings. Walk outside without headphones and let the air have you. Say one clean no where you usually bend. Then breathe and notice. Nothing broke. Something strengthened. That something is the person you'll need when the unchosen storm comes. 7. Self-distancing, not self-suppression. You've been told to control yourself, and you translated that into silence. Bite the tongue, bury the surge, act as if it doesn't burn. But suppression is a pressure cooker. It doesn't make you wise, it makes you brittle. The Stoic alternative is cleaner. Don't stuff the feeling, step beside it. Self-distancing is the art of shifting vantage point without abandoning experience. You stay present to what rises, but you move just far enough to see it, name it, and guide it. Instead of being the storm, you become the one steering through it. Try this in the next hot moment. Your pulse spikes, the old narrative cues up, and the part of you that loves courtroom drama grabs the mic. Instead of gagging that part or handing it the keys, call yourself by name and speak in the third person, the way a good coach would. You are feeling cornered right now. Breathe. Your job is proportion, not performance. What matters in the next 5 minutes? The grammar matters. Third person creates a sliver of daylight between you and the wave. In that daylight, options appear. Shorter words, a slower send, a softer face, a boundary delivered once instead of a speech that breeds more speeches. This is not play acting. It's a neurologically honest trick. When you say I, your nervous system fuses identity with sensation. I am angry becomes a costume you must defend. When you shift to anger is present, or you're feeling anger, you demote the feeling from ruler to visitor. Visitors can be hosted with rules. Welcome, be seen, no furniture flipping, leave by the hour. You aren't denying the guest. You're declining to let them redecorate the house. Self-distancing thrives on clean questions. You already know the dirty ones. Why do I always? What's wrong with me? How could they? Those questions are gasoline. Swap them for guides you can answer while upset. What is real right now without prophecy? What matters most to my values in this scene? Truth, safety, dignity, the promise I made to myself. What is the smallest next move that keeps me aligned? The moment your language becomes coach-like, your body starts listening. Shoulders loosen. Breath lengthens. Vision widens. Wisdom is somatic before it is verbal. You might fear that this distance will make you robotic. It won't. Distance lets the emotion tell the truth without writing the script. You can say, "You're hurt." Say so in one line. You can say, "You're angry." Use it to ask the question you keep avoiding. You can say, "You're afraid." Act anyway because courage isn't mood, it's method. Feelings stop being foremen and become couriers, delivering messages you translate into moves. That translation is leadership. Over yourself first, then by extension, over rooms that have lost theirs. Practice when the stakes are low, so it holds when they're high. During a minor irritation, the slow checkout, the glitchy app, narrate in the third person under your breath. You're impatient. Stand tall. Breathe out longer. Decide if this deserves more of your life. In a small disagreement, try, you want to win, you need to understand. Ask one clarifying question. In a bout of envy, you want their outcome. What you really need is their inputs. Do one rep you've been avoiding. Each micro-rep deposits trust. When the heavier moment arrives, the hard feedback, the public miss, the intimate rupture, the voice is ready. Not theatrical, not cruel, just steady and on your side. Notice how self-distancing changes your speech. You stop justifying in paragraphs and start choosing in sentences. You stop stacking context as a shield and start stating needs without apology. You can revisit this after you've eaten. You can move this to a call. You can say no without a villain. You discover that most of your chaos came not from what you felt, but from how you tried to make other people carry it. When you carry the first half, regulate, name, aim, the second half becomes simpler. A clean request, a clean boundary, a clean silence. There's tenderness in this practice too. Many of your surges are old children showing up in adult clothes. The scared one, the starved one, the proud one who learned that shame is fatal. Self-suppression shoves them into a closet. Self-distancing kneels to their height and says, I see you. Here's our rule. We tell the truth without tearing the room. We keep the promise we made this morning. We leave if we must. You are not infantilizing yourself. You're integrating, giving each part a job that serves the day instead of hijacking it. Guard the line between distance and detachment theater. If you hear yourself saying, you don't care, you've crossed into numbness. Return to accuracy. You care deeply. You're choosing proportion. If you feel yourself turning cool as a punishment to others, that's not stoic. It's spite in a nice coat. The test is simple. Does your distance increase agency and compassion at the same time? If yes, continue. If not, you've stepped out of coaching and into hiding. Step back toward the light where courage lives. Seal this into the body with a short ritual you can execute anywhere. Hand on ribcage, feel the rise, then the longer fall. Eyes on a fixed point just above eye level to open the posture. Whisper your name, then one instruction. Name, slower. Or, name. Choose the smallest right move. Or, name. Keep your dignity. 5 seconds, then act. Make that your signature in rooms that want you fast and loud. You will start to feel a new identity forming. Not the person who suppresses to survive, but the person who steps beside themselves to steer. Over weeks, this becomes your way. The heat comes, you host it. The room tilts, you level. The storyline tries to cast you as victim or villain. You choose actor with a script you can sign tomorrow. Others will notice the change and call it maturity. You will know it as mercy, the gift of being fully alive without being fully controlled. This is detachment that frees emotion to be information and frees you to be in command. 8. Apatheia not equal to apathy. Somewhere along the way you were sold a counterfeit. That to be calm, you must be cold. That to be steady, you must be numb. That to stop being ruled by feeling, you must stop feeling at all. That's apathy, life drained of color to avoid the mess of being alive. The Stoics aimed at something entirely different. Apatheia, not deadness, but freedom from the tyrannies of destructive passions. Not a heart on ice, but a heart under governance. Apatheia is what happens when emotion returns to its proper rank, advisor, not emperor, and character takes the throne. Look closely at your best days. You were not empty, you were ordered. You felt the tug of irritation and chose proportion. You felt the ache of disappointment and chose dignity. You felt the pulse of desire and chose timing. Feeling was present. Possession was absent. That is apatheia in the wild, emotion allowed to speak without being allowed to steer. It is not less human. It is a more responsible human who refuses to hand the keys to whichever mood shouts the loudest. Apathy says, "Nothing matters, so why care?" Apatheia says, "Many things matter, so I will care in ways that serve what matters most." Apathy turns the volume down on everything until you can sleep through your own life. Apatheia tunes the volume to the truth so you can hear the signal and mute the noise. Apathy collapses joy and grief into the same grey. Apatheia sharpens both. You can grieve cleanly without becoming bitterness. You can rejoice fully without becoming reckless. This is not a trick of language, it is a discipline of allegiance. What will you serve today? The weather in your chest or the values you vowed to live by? You'll be tempted to wear apathy as armor because it earns easy points in a world that confuses cynicism with intelligence. Detachment performance looks cool on camera. The half smile, the shrug, the "nothing gets to me." But that performance is brittle. The first real wind rattles it, and the person inside cracks because they never practiced feeling safely. Apatheia is different. It is supple. It can absorb impact because it has been training in honest contact, naming sensations, right-sizing meaning, acting on values. When the hit comes, you flex and recenter instead of pretending you didn't feel it. There is a simple test for which path you're on. Does your calm increase your capacity to love, to build, to tell the truth? If your calm shrinks you into avoidance, if it makes you stingy with risk and miserly with tenderness, you're not calm, you're hiding. Apatheia widens your range. You can sit with a friend's pain without catching fire yourself. You can lead a tense room without becoming the tension. You can hear criticism without turning the critic into an enemy or yourself into a project to be punished. Because your center is not up for auction, your presence becomes a safe place for other people to be real. Practice apatheia in the tiny theaters where you usually rehearse apathy. When your partner's mood clouds, you don't withdraw into icy distance. You stay warm and clear. I'm here, and I won't fight the storm. Let's speak when we can be kind. When a plan slips, you don't collapse into whatever. You adjust the lever you own and keep the cadence. When praise arrives, you nod without building a throne. When blame arrives, you sift for signal and discard the smoke. You are choosing allegiance moment by moment, never to the surge, always to the standard. This discipline refines joy too. Joy without apatheia burns hot and fades. Joy with apatheia endures because it's tied to inputs you can replicate, work done well, promises kept, beauty noticed on purpose, presence given without the need to be impressive. You are not high on luck. You are grounded in coherence. Meals taste like gratitude because you earned your appetite. Sleep lands deeper because you didn't spend the day fighting weather you couldn't change. Even ambition changes flavor. It stops being a loud escape from your present and becomes a quiet devotion to your craft. Do not fear that apatheia will make you less expressive. Expression becomes cleaner when possession ends. Your no loses its barbs. Your yes loses its apology. Your laughter isn't a performance to seduce approval. It's the overflow of a nervous system not at war with itself. You will be accused of being unbothered. That's half true. You are bothered by the right things in the right measure, and you use the bother as fuel for a better move instead of theatre for attention. If you need one sentence to carry this week, let it be, I will feel everything I need to feel and obey only what deserves obedience. That line places love above lust, courage above fear, truth above image, duty above drama. It will not make you invincible. It will make you coherent. And coherence is the quiet power you are hunting in all the loud places. Calm that isn't numb, clarity that isn't cruel, strength that breathes instead of performs. 9. Amor fati, say yes to reality. You keep bargaining with the day as if reality owes you store credit for the parts you didn't order. This meeting should have gone differently. This person should have understood you. This body should have obeyed the plan. And while you argue with the world continues, unimpressed. Amor fati invites a harder and freer posture. Stop asking life to refund what has already happened. Say yes to what is, not as surrender, but as strategy. Fate is not a judge with a gavel. It's the material on your workbench. You cannot choose the grain of the wood, but you can choose the craft of your hands. The love part is not romance. It is allegiance to the truth that the day, as it arrives, is the only place your power can live. This does not mean you cheer for pain or pretend injustice is fine. It means you refuse to spend a second life in resistance to the first. The first life is the event, the delay, the loss, the closed door, the weather, the miss. The second life is the drama you add. Why me? Why now? This always, this never. The first life can be hard. The second life is optional. Amor fati deletes the second life. You feel the sting. You breathe. You return your hands to the part of the scene that answers when you move. The moment you stop insisting on a different past, attention returns to the present, and the present is full of handles. Say yes begins as a sentence in the mouth and must end as choreography in the body. A client cancels and your stomach drops. The old reflex is to narrate doom, to forward the panic, to call 3 friends and harvest sympathy that will soothe for 10 minutes and cost you 3 hours. The new reflex is to stand, exhale longer than you inhaled, rename the scene without prophecy, and convert the energy into a lever you respect. Reclaim the hour for the unglamorous work you were avoiding. Reach 3 new prospects. Tighten 1 offer. Fix the footer you've ignored for months. Fate gave you a bend. Your yes turns it into a turn. The path still goes forward because you did. Saying yes to reality upgrades grief too. Grief becomes clean when you stop negotiating with doors that have closed. That person left. That version of the plan is over. That opportunity belonged to someone else this time. You don't numb. You kneel. You let the body shake and the water come. Then you choose the smallest act that honors what was lost and feeds what remains. Write the letter you'll never send, and then lift something heavy. Visit the place once, then stop haunting it. Tell one truth you kept swallowing, then eat and sleep like someone who wants to be strong again. Amor fati does not erase ache. It ends the war with the calendar. There is a muscular gratitude hidden in this practice. When you welcome the day as given, you notice its specific mercies faster. The quiet 30 minutes no one claimed. The unexpected compliment you were too defended to hear last year. The skill you earned from a failure that would have wrecked an earlier you. Yes collects these mercies without making them conditions. You are not saying, I love only the pleasant. You are saying, I will love the real. The pleasant is easy. The real is where you are remade. Amor fati also humbles ambition into something durable. You still set aims, design plans, pursue excellence, but you stop treating outcomes as proof of identity. If the door opens, good. You were ready because you trained under imperfect weather. If the door stays shut, also good. You have new data, and you do not waste a season sulking when a season could be spent sharpening. The person who loves fate is dangerous in the best sense, because they cannot be stalled by refusal. They take refusal as materials and make something while they knock on the next door. People call it resilience. It is more precise to call it obedience to reality. You will be accused of being complacent. Let them talk. Complacency is passive. Amor fati is ferociously active. Complacency shrugs and does less. Amor fati nods and does the next right thing. Complacency avoids pain by shrinking. Amor fati metabolizes pain by working. The test is simple. Does your yes generate motion? If your yes becomes a couch, you are lying to yourself. If your yes becomes a bench where you lace your shoes, you are on the path. Practice with the day in front of you. The commute snarls. You rehearse patience and call your future by learning something while you move slowly. The file corrupts. You rebuild better structure than before. The body says, not today. You meet it where it is and train the chain around the tender link. The comment stings. You extract a note and discard the poison. If none of this is dramatic, that's the point. Amor fati is a craftsman's creed. It turns fate into furniture, setbacks into systems, noise into signal. It builds a life that is not easily rattled because its owner stopped insisting the world respect their plans before they would begin. You can keep wishing for different weather, or you can become a sailor whose competence makes almost any weather usable. Say yes, then move. Not yes. And I'll love this one day as a trick to escape discomfort. But yes, and I will work with what is in my hands before the hour ends. Over months, this turns into a strange lightness. You are not fighting the river. You're navigating it with a steadier stroke. And strangely, doors open more often for the person who keeps building on today's ground than for the one still shouting at yesterday's sky. 10. Indifference to praise and blame. You spend more energy managing mirrors than making moves. A compliment swells you, a critique shrinks you, a silence makes you invent a courtroom where you argue with ghosts. Praise and blame are weather, useful to note, foolish to worship. The Stoic stance is not spite toward opinion. It is indifference to its power over your center. When your gravity lives inside, applause becomes data and criticism becomes data, and you remain the one who decides how either converts into action. That is emotional detachment as sovereignty. You stop trading your steering wheel for someone else's claps or frowns. Begin with honesty about the drug. Praise is fast fuel. It spares you the work of building belief from evidence. It hands you a temporary identity you didn't have to earn that day. But like all fast fuel, it burns hot and leaves you empty, chasing another hit, asking for one more read, one more thought, one more thumbs up to postpone the only proof that matters, the next block of work done cleanly. Blame is the same drug with a different taste. It gives you drama instead of direction. You replay it, you annotate it, you recruit allies to soothe the sting, and the hour you needed to improve has been spent narrating injury. Both substances are seductive because they ask nothing of you but reaction. Indifference breaks the loop by reinstating a single law: inputs over impressions. So relocate your center of gravity on purpose. Each morning, for the work that matters, define success in behaviors you can repeat under any forecast. Write 500 words I can stand behind. Practice the opening until my breath carries it. Send 3 clear offers. Train for 30 minutes with crisp form. Protect 1 45-minute block from the swarm. That list is not romantic. It is a contract with yourself. External noise cannot cancel it. Internal noise does not excuse it. You meet the contract first. Then, and only then, you decide what outside voices deserve conversion into adjustments. When praise comes, thank it like a passerby offering water on a long run. Drink, if useful. Do not stop to build a shrine. Translate the compliment into process. They loved the clarity becomes keep writing to the point. Great energy becomes the rehearsal paid off. Repeat the rehearsal. If there's no actionable signal, let it pass as weather and return to your stride. Pride anchored to process is steady. Pride anchored to opinion is seasick. When blame arrives, strip it to parts you can use. Ask 3 questions in order. Is the source credible for this specific domain? Is there a clear, testable signal inside the sting? What is the smallest adjustment I can run within 48 hours to see if the signal holds? If any answer is no, archive the note without ceremony. If yes, act once, quickly. You are not submitting your identity for revision. You are upgrading a behavior. The difference saves lives, mostly your own. Silence deserves its own paragraph because it is the loudest manipulator when you are hungry for mirrors. Silence makes you write fiction. They hated it. I am invisible. I should stop. Replace fiction with a rule. No story about silence until I have shipped on my cadence for 4 weeks. Cadence is the cure. Deliver enough times, and silence becomes feedback, not fate. The world is busy. Your move is to become the kind of person it is hard to ignore for long. Consistent, clear, useful. Indifference to praise and blame does not mean isolation. It means curation. Build a tiny inner council whose standards you trust. 2 or 3 builders who have earned scars in the direction you're walking. Offer them your work with a precise ask. Cut fluff. Catch blind spots. Challenge my assumptions. Their input lands inside your center without displacing it because you chose them for their devotion to craft, not their devotion to your feelings. Everyone else moves to the outer ring. Welcome to watch, not to steer. Notice how your language changes as your gravity moves inside. You stop saying, I hope they like it, and start saying, I aim to be useful. You stop asking, was I good? And start asking, was I clear and honest? You stop explaining boundaries as if they need a jury and state them as if they're part of your job, which they are. Indifference here is not rudeness. It is a refusal to make your life a referendum. You were not elected to yourself. You were entrusted with yourself. There will be days you wobble. A big praise will make you float. A sharp critique will make you flinch. Good. Feel both without obedience. Smile at the lift. Do not live on it. Wince at the sting. Do not bleed out. Then return to your ledger of evidence. The blocks honored, the attempts shipped, the adjustments made, the promises kept. That ledger is the only mirror that tells the truth over time. Stand in front of it nightly. Let it calibrate you back to proportion. Practice a small ritual after every public act. Close, breathe, debrief. Close the tab or the door. Breathe longer out than in. Debrief in 3 lines. Kept, what standard you kept. Learned, 1 note you'll test. Next, the first lever you'll pull tomorrow. This keeps the psyche from sprinting into alleys of what do they think and brings it home to what will I do. Over months, you will feel a new muscle form, the ability to stand in rooms that love you and rooms that doubt you with the same spine. People will call it confidence. It is cleaner than that. It is custody. The reward for this indifference is not a life without feedback. It is a life where feedback stops owning your breath. You get your minutes back, the ones you used to donate to imaginary juries. You get your depth back, the kind that only accrues when you keep working between cheers and jeers. And you get your kindness back, because people are easier to love when you don't need their faces to hold your worth. 11. Boundaries without bitterness. You think you need anger to draw a line, as if heat is the only ink that writes clearly. So you wait until resentment ferments, then you pour it into a paragraph, and the paragraph becomes an argument, and the argument becomes a week of repair. Boundaries set in fury are boomerangs. They go out sharp and return to cut your hand. The Stoic alternative is quieter and stronger. Boundaries as governance, not revenge. You are not punishing anyone. You are protecting the conditions under which you can live well and treat people well. That tone changes everything. It turns, "How dare you?" into, "Here is how I do." Begin with a sentence you write for yourself, not for them. I will not outsource my peace to other people's preferences. Now translate that vow into behaviors you can repeat without drama. The first behavior is clarity. Most boundary failures are design failures disguised as moral failures. You never defined the rule, you negotiated it in the moment, or you tucked it inside a smile and hoped they'd read the hint. Say the line simply, in the smallest words you can find, once. I don't discuss work after 8. I'm not available for last-minute requests. I can't host this time. I prefer voice for sensitive topics. If the relationship deserves nuance, add it when calm, the why that isn't a thesis, the alternative you can live with. Then stop talking. Boundaries are instructions, not essays. You will be tempted to over-explain to purchase approval. Don't. Approval bought on credit becomes resentment debt. People trust the person who says less and then acts exactly as they said. If the line is tested, repeat it once with the same tone and follow it with the pre-decided consequence. End the call kindly, leave the room, reschedule, decline the project. Consequence without contempt is how a boundary graduates from wish to law. The moment you enforce without theatrics, the room recalibrates. Those who can respect you will. Those who can't will accuse you of being cold. Hear the translation. You're different means you no longer let me steer. Good. The soul of a clean boundary is proportion. You don't need a wall for a draft. Measure the mismatch and match the remedy. If someone is chronically late, you don't deliver a lecture on respect. You switch meetings to calls, or build a 15-minute grace window into your calendar and stop bleeding your day for it. If a friend keeps turning every conversation into a crisis, you don't snap. You set a container. I have 10 minutes now, or we can talk tomorrow. If a colleague emails at midnight expecting dawn replies, you don't teach them sleep hygiene. You schedule send for work hours and respond at your cadence. You're not changing them. You're calibrating the interface. Interfaces are where lives leak or hold. Bitterness is a sign you're breaking your own rule. The rule is simple. No boundary you won't enforce. If you state a standard and then abandon it at the first frown, you train the room to treat your words like weather. That training makes you cynical because you're really angry at yourself. Forgive the old pattern and begin again. Set fewer boundaries you can keep. A whisper kept becomes a reputation. A shout abandoned becomes a joke you have to live inside. Bring tenderness to the parts of you that hate disappointing people. Many of us were raised to believe love equals access, patience equals silence, generosity equals self-erasure. Those scripts produce saints on the outside and ghosts on the inside. You can be generous without being available on demand. You can be kind without being porous. You can be loyal without being local to every request. A boundary isn't a door slammed. It's a door with hours. Hours make the time inside livable. When guilt spikes, right-size it. There is clean guilt, the twinge that says you broke your own value. Repair that. And there is counterfeit guilt, the friction that arises when you honor your value against someone else's expectation. Let that pass. The body doesn't always know the difference. Train it with evidence. Keep a small ledger of moments when a line protected a good, an evening with your child unfractured by slack, a workout that steadied your mind, focus that made the work better for everyone tomorrow. Guilt shrinks in the presence of receipts. Finally, pair boundaries with blessings. Say no with a yes tucked nearby where true. I can't meet tonight. I can send notes in the morning. I won't join this project. I'll introduce you to someone who might. I don't debate over text. I'm free for a 10-minute call at 2. Blessings keep the heart open while your spine stays straight. People feel the difference between a boundary that exiles and a boundary that organizes. The first breaks trust. The second builds it. Over time, bitterness evaporates because there is nothing left to resent. You keep your word to yourself and let others keep theirs to themselves. Your calendar starts to look like a life, not a public utility. Your relationships deepen because they finally have edges. And you, lighter by dozens of tiny resentments you used to carry as proof of your goodness, discover that goodness is clearer when it is bounded. This is detachment as love, warm, firm, and sustainable. 12. Stillness before action. You keep treating movement as medicine for every mood. Feel a spike? Move. Feel a slump? Move. Feel a doubt? Move faster. But motion without stillness is noise. You burn fuel to avoid hearing what would have guided you if you'd paused long enough to listen. The Stoic practice is deceptively simple. 2 minutes of quiet before you touch what matters. Not as a ritual to look spiritual, but as a mechanical reset that returns authorship to your hands before the day starts negotiating the script. Sit. Not forever, just long enough to arrive. Phone out of reach. Eyes on one fixed point or closed if that helps. Hand on the ribs to feel breath as fact. Inhale through the nose, count 4. Exhale through the mouth, count 6. Do it 10 times. You are telling the ancient animal in you, we are safe enough to choose. Safety is not a mood, it's a physiological state. Choice lives there. Now ask 3 quiet questions and answer them without prose. What is real? What matters? What is next? Real is the inventory, appointments, deadlines, energy level, any non-negotiable constraints. Matters is the shortlist expressed in virtues, not vibes. Clarity in the meeting, courage in the boundary, patience in the delay, diligence in the craft. Next is one concrete lever you will pull in the first working block. Write it down in a line you could hand to a stranger. Complete section 2. Call X for 5 minutes. Ship the draft. 25 minutes on the bottleneck. If you cannot write a next that a stranger could execute, you are still in story. Return to real. Stillness is not absence of thought. It is the refusal to be dragged. Thoughts will parade. What if? They might. Remember when. Let them cross the stage. Keep your seat. The skill is not to empty the mind. It is to keep the mind from employing your body without consent. Each time you notice you're away, that is not failure. It is the rep. You bring attention back to breath, back to the 3 questions, back to the lever. Those returns are how focus thickens. Protect this pause from counterfeit quiet. Dim screens and doom scrolling in the dark is not stillness, it's sedation. The proof is what follows. Real stillness returns you to motion that is cleaner and shorter. Sedation spits you into motion that is frantic and long. Make a rule you can live by. No inputs before the first output. Output can be a paragraph, a plan, or a posture. 10 mindful breaths, and the next lever written counts. You just showed yourself who leads. Carry a pocket version into the day. Before you answer a charged message, take one intentional breath and ask the 3 again. Before a hard call, look beyond the screen for 5 seconds until your eyes soften and your shoulders drop. Before you enter a room, touch the doorframe lightly and decide the virtue you'll practice inside. These are not superstitions. They are somatic switches that flip you from drift to decision. The fear is that pausing will cost you time. The truth is, motion without aim is the most expensive habit you own. 2 minutes of stillness trims hours of repair from your calendar. Fewer hot replies to rewrite. Fewer meetings that should have been an email. Fewer projects launched from insecurity that you'll abandon by Friday. The day becomes a sequence rather than a spray. You stop lighting fires just to feel warm. Make the close symmetrical. 2 minutes at night to put the day down. 3 lines: kept, learned, next. Kept, the promise you honored. Learned, a note you'll test. Next, the lever you'll pull first thing. Sleep takes the baton. Morning receives it. Bookends like these make your life feel less like a series of emergencies and more like a story with chapters you author. In time, stillness begins to change your face. Not a saint's glow, something quieter. Your words shorten, your gaze steadies. You move like someone who has already consulted their center and doesn't need permission from the room. People will call you calm. You will know the truth. You are not calm by nature. You are governed by practice. Breath before send, reality before narrative, lever before lament. 2 minutes that make the next 2 hours honest. If you look honestly at the days that unraveled, you'll find the same culprit wearing different masks. Speed without seeing. A ping that pulled your hands before your mind. A story that outran the facts. A plan that demanded the weather obey. Emotional detachment, rightly understood, is how you take the wheel back. It is not the art of caring less. It is the art of caring clean. You train the micropause until reaction loses its monopoly. You live the split between what is yours and what is not, until anxiety has nothing left to feed on. You strip events to filmable truth and let the narrative earn its place through action, not adrenaline. You rise above the street until proportion returns. Rehearse the bend before the turn. Choose small frictions that grow your spine, and step beside your surges so you can coach them instead of cage them. You feel everything you must. Obey only what deserves obedience. Say yes to the world you actually woke into, and keep your center of gravity where other hands can't reach. Your lines get cleaner. Your silence returns before your send button. Your boundaries become governance instead of theater. And you begin your hours with stillness, so the next move comes from a deeper place than fear. None of this makes life frictionless. It makes you someone who wastes less of your one life on preventable fires. The meeting can still turn. You won't. The message can still sting. You won't donate the afternoon to it. Praise can visit. You won't build a throne and fall asleep on it. Blame can bark. You'll harvest the single useful note and keep your cadence. Outcomes keep their wildness. Inputs get civilized. That's the quiet revolution these 12 moves are pointing to. Not a new personality, but a new jurisdiction. You stop behaving like a citizen of other people's moods and become the governor of your own conduct. And because conduct compounds, the outer world starts reflecting your inner order. Rooms de-escalate around you. Decisions arrive with less blood on them. Respect grows where you used to hunt for relief. Practice will be imperfect. Some days you will catch the wave too late, and the words will leave your mouth too fast. Good. Recovery is part of the craft. You don't judge the stumble, you shorten the floor time. Breathe longer out than in. Return to the 3 questions that keep you honest. What's real? What matters? What's next? Then do the smallest next that a stranger could execute. Put more truth into the world than commentary. Put more proportion into the hour than pressure. Put more evidence into your ledger than emotion into your inbox. That is how calm becomes not a mood, but a method. That is how clarity stops being a quote and becomes your handwriting. That is how power leaves your performance and enters your breath.